This is the perfect kind of topic because it will get everybody mad. Everybody's gonna be in the comments of this video saying things like, Lego, you suck! Why are you talking about this? Today we are going over to The Athletic and talking about a piece published by Arpon Basu. When was this article published? July 31st, 2023, so a few days ago. Take a look at Basu and the mailbag here. Yuri Slafkovsky expectations should be measured, but not undervalued. Now, you already know from the title, from the thumbnail, you know that we're not talking about Yuri Slafkovsky in this video. And if you wanted to get the full scoop on that, hey, the link is going to be in the description. You could read it if you have The Athletic. We're not going to screenshot paragraphs from this article because it's The Athletic, it's paid for material. But we are instead going over onto Spectres Hockey from August 2nd, 2023. Yeah, we're using the same article again as we did in the Tyler Myers trade video, but the first part of Lyle Richardson's Rumor Mail report for August 2nd talks about this particular Arpon Basu mailbag, and it brings up the idea that the Montreal Canadiens may go out there and sign themselves a guy. In his latest mailbag segment, Arpon Basu was asked to predict which players the Canadiens might target in the 2024 class of free agents. He proposed Toronto Maple Leafs winger William Nylander. If the Canadiens decide to be active in next summer's UFA market, Basu believes they would target a winger to complete their top six forward lines. He thinks they would have sufficient cap space to pursue Nylander, whose current contract extension talks with the Leafs reportedly aren't going well. Nylander will be 28 next summer and has been a consistent scorer for the Leafs, even in the playoffs. Basu speculated it would cost about $10 million annually on a contract, carrying him into his mid-30s. Now, I know what you're thinking. That is ridiculous, that is crazy, Nylander is not going to the Habs are not going to be able to sign this guy. This is what Spectre's note goes out there and says. Bear in mind that Basu was merely responding to a reader's question, and he's not reporting the Habs will pursue Nylander on the open market next summer. Depending on the course of their rebuild and the performance of young players like Slafkovsky, Dach, and Newhook, they might not be in the market for a big-name UFA by that time. Still, this gives us all something else to banter about during these dog days of the NHL offseason other than when and where Erik Karlsson will be traded. There are some other names that are tossed around as potential Canadiens targets, but William Nylander, of course, is the biggest and baddest one. When it comes to Nylander, the entire idea of him maybe getting something of a $10 million AAV contract seems to be more so in the realm of, okay, if Nylander wants it and he's adamant that he wants it, he'll probably get it. Toronto's not going to give him that money, and we all know this. They want him to take a cheaper deal, and the only way for that to happen is if other players take cheaper deals too, thus giving Nylander the idea that taking a cheaper deal is okay, which allows him to take a cheaper deal too. But if you have all the other guys on this team, you have to give out an extension to Matthews, you have to get Marner, Tavares signed next year. If these guys are not going to take pay cuts, then Nylander is not going to take a pay cut either. And as a result, you're likely going to see either a trade where he gets sent to a team that could give him a $10 million plus AAV deal, or he goes to free agency, the Toronto Maple Leafs lose him for nothing, and the ultimate catastrophic disaster situation occurs. William Nylander, as we've said in many videos over the past few weeks, is a player that could justifiably get $10 million a year. 27 years old, 5'11", 196 right-handed guy who was making $6.9 million a year every season until the end of 23-24. That dollar amount by itself is somewhat of an underpayment, as last year he had 87 points in 82 games played, 40 goals too. The season before that, 21-22, also an 80-point year, so there you go, back-to-back 80-point years, back-to-back 30-goal seasons, and as Basu noted, he produced in the playoffs. He had a point per game this playoff run, and the interesting part of that is that a chunk of those points came in the second round, which you can't say is the case for guys like Marner, Matthews, and Tavares, everybody else on this team. So for Nylander, he justifyingly could go out there and get whatever money that is that he can get. And if he does hit the free agent market, you know he's not going to get anything less than $10 million a year. And I know it's fair to bring up the idea that says that, hey, some players are making cheaper dollar amounts but are actually better. Like, for example, Matthew Tkachuk in Florida, 9.5 mil AAV. That guy's a beast, 100-point years back-to-back. But you have to remember, there is a different tax situation over there. Also, Tkachuk signed for a deal that I think a lot of people would consider is a very good steal. Edmonton and Draisaitl, hey, that guy signed a contract ages ago, $8.5 million. That guy's a pretty good player nowadays. He'll likely get something a lot more than just 7 digits on his next contract. Meanwhile, you have other players that are signing high dollar amounts, like the Marners, the Matthewses, and the Tavareses. So Nylander, as the odd man out, I mean, look, if he wants to decide he can get paid, he probably will get paid. And if Montreal is the team that will give him that opportunity, then we are opening up Pandora's box. Because if you have a top 6 that features the likes of Nylander, Suzuki, Caulfield, Doc, let's say Juraj Slafkovsky, and maybe Josh Anderson or something, then hey, be my guest. If you wanted to put Newhook in that position, if you wanted to give Monahan more of a role, there are a lot of players on this Montreal team that can slowly grow alongside of each other and get better together. Nylander is already primed and poised to getting another 40-goal year and another 80-point season. If you give him the keys to the car, if you say, Nylander, we want you on our team and we want you to get 90 points. We want you to get this $10 million contract and we want to put you in a spot where you are the number 1 player on this forward core. All of a sudden, that's a stage that Nylander hasn't really needed to represent much, but because he's so good, I wouldn't be surprised if Nylander headed over to a team like Montreal and he actually showed up to the task. It's not like he's a product of Matthews and Marner anyway. Nylander is a good player and we can all understand that. So if he's coming over to a team like Montreal that's young, that is looking for that bite, and is looking to make a splash sometime over the next few seasons, then signing Nylander to a 7-year, $10 million AAV contract doesn't seem like the worst thing in the world. Now, sure, signing anybody to a really long-term deal with a high dollar amount is not the most guaranteed way to get success. Sometimes players fade away, sometimes players don't live up to the contract a few years down, but Nylander has just been getting better and better every season, and at some point you gotta say, yeah, well, he's probably gonna plateau, right? I mean, even last year he got better from the years beforehand. When does it that he plateaus? And with the way the NHL is going right now, especially with the style of game that's starting to prevail, this really is the type of player that I feel fits into that mold. And you have other young guys in Suzuki and Caulfield that are sort of exhibiting similar growth spurts, and if you could see them all grow together, that could be a pretty nice pairing there. Nylander would be the veteran on a line with Suzuki and Caulfield, or if you had Slafkovsky instead. There's an interesting sort of dynamic here that would have Nylander as the top dog, or Nylander as the guy that everybody learns from. He's grown so much in Toronto the past few years that if he wanted to get that big money contract to justify a big dollar role, then hey, it would make sense in my opinion at least. So for Montreal, the idea of them going out there and signing some big-name free agent to a contract in next year's free agency class, it makes sense. If you wanted to project the Canadiens to start winning around 24, 25, 26-ish, then signing a guy in this time frame with the ample amount of cap space you're going to have does make a lot more sense than some other teams going out there and signing players just for the sake of signing players. Let's say you're a team that's rebuilding, you're a tweener team, you lost all your players, and then you just signed a big fish free agent just because he happens to be there and he wants to go to your team. Cough, cough, totally not alluding to Columbus and Johnny Gaudreau, but if Montreal signed Nylander, that would make for some pretty good content. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about this idea of Nylander going over to the Habs. There are some other names that are mentioned in the Athletic piece as to where the Canadiens could go with their money next year in free agency. Other names like Jonathan Taves and Zach Aston Reese, Puljujärvi, it's all there in the Spectre's hockey piece. Also, the Athletic piece goes out there and says everything too. So if you have the Athletic, you can click the link in the description if you want to read the article itself. Spectre's hockey is also going to be linked in the description too. But just let me know your thoughts in the comment section in general. How do you feel about the idea of Nylander to the Habs next year? $10 million plus AAV, 7 years, 6 years, whatever. Do you feel the Canadiens should be doing this? How do you feel about the dollar amount itself? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.